Hello and welcome back to Winners and Losers World Cup edition. And the semi-finalists are decided. Argentina will take on Croatia on Tuesday, and unfortunately France will take on Morocco on Wednesday. Pat, we've just been through the ringer, or I have as an England fan. I want to get your opinion first of all as a neutral. What did you make of the game?
I think that England were probably the better side, but in the key moments, France made them count. I didn't think their defenders were particularly good today, but I thought their attackers got relatively few chances and made the most of them. England, as we know, with 2 penalties, really, you would hope to score 2 goals, and you would imagine that they should be playing extra time right now or going to penalties. So I think they'll be disappointed with that, but I think when they look at the quality of the performance, when they run it back afterwards, yes, there'll be recriminations after this game, but I don't really think there should be. I think that Southgate actually got this one pretty much right, and I think his players mostly did him proud on the day as well.
Yeah, I think if anyone's looking for a rant from an England fan, I'm not really going to give one, to be honest. I thought England were very, very good on the night. I thought they actually outplayed France, as Pat said. There'll be some complaints about the refereeing in this game, but I actually think there wasn't that much controversy. I think Saka, it would have been a harsh foul in the build-up to France's opening goal. I don't think it was a penalty on Kane. I think it was outside of the box. And the referee did get that VAR call on Theo Hernandez right. The only contentious call is, I think it probably should have been a red card because it was a goal-scoring opportunity, but we weren't quite sure where the ball was going to land, so it's difficult to say that it was a clear-cut goal-scoring opportunity, which maybe came into the referee's thinking. But again, it's penalties that are the big talking point in this game. Of course, Kane missing that penalty. It didn't go to penalties in the end, but it feels like penalties in quarter-finals for England are just go hand in hand, really. We've now exited at the quarter-final stage in 7 World Cups, the first time since 2006. Pat, I think there'll be some people on Twitter probably looking for attention, clicks and likes that will say, you know, Southgate got this wrong or England have failed on the biggest stage. I personally don't see it like that, but what's your take on how England should reflect on this tournament?
I think they should be proud of themselves. I think the difficulty is, of course, that Kane has been such an important focal point for them, and he is coming to the end of his life as a top-class centre-forward. He could still be a useful player in years to come, but he's unlikely to be this calibre of starting 9 again. And I thought this tournament he was far better than the previous one. You know, you saw a lot of his all-round play. He got 3 assists in the competition. And actually the fact that Rashford got 3, the fact that Saka got 3 goals shows that the attack was far more coherent than it's been in the past. And I think as well that the move to a back 4 will now remain permanently. And England have needed that for a while. I guess I just kind of think that you really got unlucky. Like you look at the draw for the quarterfinals, and Portugal got Morocco, which okay, they lost that game. Morocco played really, really well, but you would hope to beat Morocco. Brazil got a not particularly impressive Croatia side and managed to go out to them. Then Argentina got the Netherlands, who I think England would have beaten. So actually, England were in the toughest matchup here, and sometimes that's just how it goes. On another night, they could have won this game comfortably. So I wouldn't look too much at where they exited. I would look at the manner in which they played. But I would be thinking about what the next iteration of this side looks like. Who is going to be the centre forward? Is it going to be someone like Tammy Abraham or something in a few years' time? Because I think one of the mistakes that England could make is to say, well, we got this far with this team, and maybe we should stick with all the veterans here. You know, Maguire, Walker, Kane. Those guys have been absolutely vital to this version of England. But if England try and hold on to them too long, then we will start to see a decline in the way that we've seen from, say, Belgium.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had a fierce decline. We do not want to be emulating Belgium anytime soon. I thought the one criticism that we could potentially have of Southgate was maybe he waited a little bit long on the substitutes. I think it was until the 79th minute that he made his first change. And Henderson at that stage, it's very easy to say in hindsight, maybe should have got closer to Griezmann for that excellent cross, which Giroud heads onto Maguire, which then goes past Pickford. But other than that, you know, they scored a wonderful opening goal from Chouameni. I don't think England did a whole lot wrong. We certainly weren't cut to ribbons like many people expected by Mbappe. I think he had 1 shot. I think he created 1 chance, a couple of dribbles, but nothing. You know, Walker handled him pretty well. I thought our game plan was really, really effective. And that first 20 minutes of the second half was, I think, the best England have played in this tournament so far. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get over the line at the biggest moment. And Kane, one of the best penalty takers in the world, fluffing his lines. I mean, who saw that coming? I certainly didn't. There are elements of this that are just going to be very, very difficult to swallow, though, because it felt like France were there for the taking. Like, I don't think they performed particularly well on the night, and were showing some sort of unusual sort of shakiness at the back. I don't think Theo Hernandez had a good game against Saka. And it felt like maybe the Saka substitution was the wrong call, Pat, because he was having the game of, well, his best game of the tournament, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, he took fewer touches than both of the other members of the front three. But in the first kind of 15 minutes of the second half, he had more touches than any of them, and everyone except the central midfielders and centre-backs. So he was kind of the key attacking player for England in those first 15 minutes after the interval, and it really showed. And when you look at him in the game, you know, one dribble, 2 key passes, he was fouled 4 times, 1 obviously for the penalty, and his ability to pick up space in between the lines was really important. So I think what I would have liked to have seen, maybe, if there was a mistake from Southgate here, it might have been going to the 4-2-3-1 shape while still having Foden and Saka on the pitch. Whereas instead, he changed up the shape and changed the personnel at the same time. And to me, a front line of Kane, Rashford and Sterling is not really creative enough. There's not enough kind of drifting in between the lines there. I think at least one of Saka or Foden you want in that position, somebody who can play as much more of a creator or a build-up guy, because we saw in those last few minutes, after Saka went off, there were 20 minutes more of the game, but there were only 3 more shots for England in that time.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, kind of what we felt when we were watching it. We kept seeing players in those last couple of seconds, kept seeing players isolated out on the right wing. You know, Rice looking for someone to pass to, Sterling looking for someone to pass to, trying to beat 2 guys to get somebody, trying to get somewhere. And it just felt like all the kind of smoothness, all the coherence of the attack had really fallen apart with those substitutions. So if Southgate got something wrong, it's that. But on the other hand, I would argue that he got his overall tactical setup very right. As you said, Mbappe, 1 shot, 4 touches in the box. You know, to be clear, a top-class striker will probably average 6+. And he leads the team. He leads France for shots and touches in the box this tournament. Kept him very, very quiet. Kept Dembele very, very quiet. So, I don't know. It seemed to me like a plan well executed. And I think also England can have maybe some grievances with the referee. But I don't think the referee decided the game.
No, absolutely not. And I think some people will be quick to point fingers at Southgate, saying, you know, he's wasted this amazing crop of talent. I don't see it like that at all. You can have a good World Cup and be knocked out in the quarterfinal stage. There's nothing embarrassing about losing to a France side, especially having played in the manner we did. And I think Southgate just deserves so much credit. You know, he was initially appointed on an interim basis. People forget that after the Sam Allardyce debacle. Obviously a semi-final in 2018, quarterfinals here, finals of the Euros. And it's the team spirit and ethos around this side that has just made them so likeable. All these players, I've just never connected with an England team as much as I do these current players. And that's, you know, partly due to their work off the field. Rashford, Sterling with their amazing work. You know, Sterling taking on the right wing press, Rashford taking on the government. You know, Jack Grealish showing himself to be a great guy with that disabled child the other day. There's numerous examples of just England players finally showing that, you know, footballers are real people, and yes, they will occasionally make mistakes, but we've had such a tumultuous relationship with our footballers in the first 20, 15 years of this century, really, and looking for faults in them, whereas really I think England players are now kind of the best of this country at a time when there hasn't actually been that much to get excited about. Pat, let's talk about the semi-final that's coming up then, because we didn't actually do a video on Euro Football Daily earlier about Morocco's, well, I was going to say miraculous win. It wasn't really miraculous at all. I actually thought they were by far the better side because of resource, but we will be covering that game on Tuesday and Wednesday. But let's talk about France versus Morocco, Pat. How impressed were you with Morocco earlier today?
Really impressed. A lot more impressed than I was with their performance against Spain, to be honest with you. I thought in that game they kind of rode their luck a bit. It was a very good defensive performance, but quite often for an underdog to beat, I don't know, an overdog, you need the better team to play badly and the worst team to play really well and a bit of luck. And that's kind of what happened with Spain. Whereas against Portugal, I just thought they were just better. They were just better than them at everything. They were the better team on the day. However, Morocco have got to this point by being a really solid defensive side. And actually, England were arguably the best defensive side in the tournament, and France still found a way through. When England found a way to shut down Dembele and Mbappe, France said, okay, well, it's going to be Giroud who does it for us today. And, you know, because he also had that volley that Pickford saved, point blank, amazing save.
Great save.
So I think that France have enough weaponry to get through Morocco. And I also think their defenders, I mean, Portugal do have great defenders, but I don't think they'll be quite as naive. I think they've got more variation in the squad. Portugal have an amazing first team, and they do have some interesting players on the bench. I mean, today they brought Cancelo off the bench. But after a while, they do also start to get, I think, quite thin when they're running through their substitutions. France have a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to bet against Morocco at this point, but to me, that's a France win. France have 2 of the top 3 scorers at this competition. So, yeah, I think that one will probably be France. And then I think we're looking at France-Argentina final, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem that way. It does seem that way. It'll
Big
be
one.
I think we'd be, it'd be naive to rule out Morocco entirely, but 2 games going to extra time back to back. It feels like can lightning strike 3 times as well? They've defeated 2 massive footballing nations in Spain, in Portugal, of course. Drew with Croatia in the groups, beat Belgium. So they are no easy side, and massive respect to them as well. So organised, so brave on the ball. Actually, some of their build-up play I thought was exceptional today. So yeah, they shouldn't be written off at all. But as you say, I think annoyingly, whoever won tonight's game is probably going to be the favourite for the tournament. I think, and that's probably now France. Pat, before we wrap up, let's finish on an England note. Who were you most impressed with on an England basis, and what is one change that you would look to bring in before the Euros in 2024?
I think it's quite hard to look past Bellingham.
Yeah.
I mean, Bellingham at this tournament announced himself as a world-class central midfielder, and I know he's been that for Dortmund, but going into a different setup with England in a partnership with Rice, which actually has been exposed in some of their other games, that Hungary game you think of, he was absolutely sensational in this tournament, both in stature and kind of in metaphorical stature, just seemed to come into his own and really was grabbing games by the scruff of the neck. Today, his ball winning was sensational. 6 tackles and interceptions, which was matched by Rice. And I think he led the tournament to this point in tackles and interceptions. So I think probably Bellingham, especially because you look at him and you think he's 19. This guy's maybe 6 years away from his peak. That's staggering stuff. One change going forward, I don't know, Dougie. I think that's a really, really difficult one. But perhaps it might be Foden starting as a 10 on a permanent basis, because I think England look a lot more dangerous with him there, and he's just so unpredictable. He may not add the consistent ball progression and defensive output that you do get from Mount, and I do still think there's a place for Mount in here. But there's always something electric about Foden, and he's such a goal threat, and he's faster than you expect him to be, and he's just awful to play against. So I think that maybe Foden has earned that spot on a permanent basis after this tournament. Yeah,
I like it. I mean, it's difficult to look past Bellingham as England's most impressive player. I'm going to give a shout out to a player I actually went quite hard on before the tournament, saying I think it would be an error for him to start in Harry Maguire. I actually thought he had a really excellent tournament, to be fair. Great. Amazing character to come back from the 12 months that he had last year, which started with that arrest in Mykonos. His form for Man United was genuinely dreadful last year. Now he's 4th choice at Man United, even behind Victor Lindelof, despite Varane's injury issues. So to play that well throughout this tournament, particularly in that US game, I thought he actually held us together in a really shaky performance, was a massive sign of, not only his footballing ability, but just his character as well. So massive, massive props to Maguire. But guys, that's the story of the night. England are out, despite playing well against France. But where did you think the game got away from them? Let us know in the comments down below, and get your predictions in for France versus Morocco on Wednesday. I'm definitely backing Morocco, but I think France might get through. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.